In the gilded skyscrapers of the financial world, some shadows stretch longer than others. Today, we're diving into the story of one such shadow, a corporate titan named Apex Global, and the man who stood at its helm, Julian Croft. This isn't just a story about numbers on a screen. It's a tale of ambition, deception, and the dizzying heights from which even the mightiest can fall. Apex Global wasn't just a company. It was an empire. From telecommunications to energy, its tentacles reached every corner of the modern economy. Julian Croft, its charismatic founder and CEO, was the architect of this monolith. To the public, he was a visionary, a self-made billionaire who graced magazine covers and gave inspiring speeches about innovation and progress. His rags to riches story was the stuff of legend. He was the man who could do no wrong, the king with the Midas touch. But behind the polished facade of Apex Tower, a different story was unfolding. Within the company, Croft ruled with an iron fist. Loyalty was valued above all else, and dissent was not tolerated. A small, insulated circle of executives, hand-picked by Croft, managed the company's most sensitive operations. They were the keepers of the kingdom's secrets. For years, Apex Global reported astounding, almost unbelievable, profits, quarter after quarter. They didn't just meet Wall Street's expectations, they shattered them. Their stock price soared, making investors rich and turning Croft into a financial deity. But how did they do it? How did a company in so many competitive sectors consistently outperform everyone, everywhere? The answer lay buried deep within their financial statements, hidden in plain sight. It was a masterpiece of creative accounting. They used a complex network of balance sheet entities, special-purpose vehicles with innocuous names like Project Nightingale and Operation Phoenix. These weren't real, thriving businesses. They were phantom companies, designed for one purpose: to hide debt and inflate earnings. Here's how it worked, in simple terms. Imagine you have a lot of debt you don't want on your books. You create a separate, smaller company. You then sell your debt to this new company. On paper, your main company looks fantastic: low debt, high assets. But in reality, you still control the smaller company, and the debt is still yours. It's a shell game, played with billions of dollars. Apex was doing this on an industrial scale. They were shifting massive liabilities of their balance sheet, making the company appear far healthier and more profitable than it truly was. They were also booking revenue from long-term contracts years before the money would ever materialize, essentially counting their chickens before they were hatched, and then counting the eggs as well. This created a powerful illusion of unstoppable growth. For a long time, nobody questioned it. The numbers were good, the stock was up, and Julian Croft's charm was intoxicating. Auditors, they were either complicit or simply overwhelmed by the complexity of the schemes. Regulators, Apex's army of lawyers and lobbyists, kept them at bay. The financial press, they were too busy writing glowing profiles of the genius CEO. The whole system was designed to reward success, and Apex was the very definition of it. But illusions, no matter how grand, eventually have to face reality. The first crack in the empire's wall came from an unlikely source. Her name was Sarah Jenkins, a junior analyst at a small, independent research firm. She wasn't a Wall Street veteran. She was just incredibly meticulous. She spent her days poring over financial filings, looking for patterns. And in Apex Global's reports, she found something that didn't add up. It was a small footnote, a single line in a 1,000-page document, referencing a transaction with one of the phantom companies. It seemed insignificant, but to Sarah, it was a loose thread. She pulled on it. She started digging into these obscure entities, cross-referencing public records, and trying to map out the web of connections. The more she pulled, the more the entire tapestry of lies began to unravel. She discovered that many of these special-purpose vehicles were run by Apex executives. In one case, the CFO's own brother was listed as the director of a shell company that had absorbed hundreds of millions in Apex's debt. It was a clear conflict of interest, a massive red flag. Sarah compiled her findings into a detailed report. She knew what she had found was explosive. This wasn't just a minor accounting error. It was systemic, deliberate fraud on a scale that could rock the entire market. She went to her boss, who initially dismissed her. Apex, they're untouchable, he said. But Sarah was persistent. The evidence was undeniable. Her firm, realizing the gravity of the situation, decided to publish the report. The day it went live, the market barely flinched. The initial reaction was disbelief. Pundits and analysts on major news networks ridiculed the report, calling it the work of an amateur trying to make a name for herself by attacking a beloved company. Apex Global's PR machine went into overdrive, issuing a statement that called the accusations baseless and malicious. Julian Croft himself went on television, looking calm and confident, and laughed it off. But the seed of doubt had been planted. A few investigative journalists, the kind who aren't swayed by corporate press releases, started looking into Sarah's claims. They started making calls. They started talking to former Apex employees, people who had been pushed out or had left on their own, burdened by what they knew. Whispers turned into sources, and sources turned into leaks. One former accountant, speaking anonymously, confirmed the existence of the scheme. He explained how pressure came from the very top, from Croft himself, to make the numbers. He described late-night meetings where they would invent transactions to plug holes in the budget. The story broke in a major newspaper. This time, it wasn't just a small research report. It was front-page news. The stock, which had been a pillar of stability, began to tremble. It dropped a few points, then a few more. Investors started getting nervous. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, which had previously given Apex a clean bill of health, was now forced to open a formal investigation. This is where the house of cards truly began to fall. As investigators swarmed Apex Tower, they started seizing computers and subpoenaing documents. The carefully constructed walls of secrecy crumbled. The phantom companies were exposed. The inflated profits, the hidden debts, it all came pouring out into the light. The stock went into a freefall. In a matter of weeks, Apex Global, a company worth over $100 billion, was virtually worthless. Life savings were wiped out. Pension funds that had invested heavily in what they thought was a blue-chip stock were devastated. Thousands of employees who had no idea what was happening at the top lost their jobs overnight. Julian Croft's world collapsed. The charismatic visionary was revealed to be a master manipulator. He was arrested, walking out of his lavish penthouse in handcuffs. The ensuing trial was a media circus. The prosecution laid out the case piece by piece, using Apex's own documents and the testimony of his former lieutenants, who had turned against him to save themselves. The defense argued that Croft was unaware of the details, that he was a big-picture leader who trusted his team to handle the finances. But the evidence was overwhelming. Emails from Croft himself demanding his executives find the magic to meet Wall Street's targets proved his direct involvement. In the end, Julian Croft was found guilty on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. He was sentenced to decades in prison. The empire he had built was dismantled, its assets sold off for pennies on the dollar. The name Apex Global became a byword for corporate greed and corruption. The story of Apex Global serves as a powerful cautionary tale. It shows how the pressure to succeed, combined with a lack of transparency and a culture of fear, can lead to catastrophic failure. It highlights the critical role of skeptical analysts like Sarah Jenkins and investigative journalists who are willing to ask the tough questions. And it reminds us that in the world of finance, as in life, things that seem too good to be true often are. The foundations of even the tallest empires can be built on sand, and it only takes one person with the courage to start digging to bring the whole thing crashing down. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. See you next time.